young boy named Liu Feng accidentally moved into the magical world of sword and magic, where people who do not have magical abilities or strength are ridiculed and humiliated by others. There are many fights and battles in this story. Our hero Liu Feng will fight many monsters and mythical animals. He will have the strongest enemies and the most reliable friends, because in this world, the strongest man rules. There are 3 priests and 4 saints. They are the most respected people in the world. The 4 saints founded 4 schools, and their teachings have spread all over the world. The priests, on the other hand, isolated themselves from worldly problems. It was impossible for anyone to change this situation. The saints and reverends had absolute power in this world, and their followers prospered. Those who rebelled against them were killed without a chance to resist. They were ruthlessly destroyed. Human life was worthless there. But sooner or later, the old order is replaced by a new one, and new heroes are born. One day, an incredible story happened. An energy vortex swirled in the sky. Something fell in the forest, and the 3-headed wolf, who was sitting calmly under a tree, opened all 3 of his mouths in fear and surprise. Right in front of him, something fell with a tremendous explosion. The man landed face down on the ground right on top of the wolf. His feet were resting on the beast's torso. The wolf grinned in rage, all 3 of its jaws open, its eyes glowing with a yellow light. The boy came to. He grabbed his head, for he was in great pain. His clothes were torn and the beast was underneath him. The boy didn't know where he was. He looked around and his face was peeling off. While the boy was wondering where he was, the huge fanged mouth of a wolf appeared behind his back. It was about to bite the boy's head off. But the boy smelled a foul odor. He wrinkled his nose and asked, "Who's making a stink?" The wolf, not expecting such a turn, retreated slightly, and the guy saw the monster standing behind him. Our hero was blown away by the wind. A huge monster with 3 heads and huge fangs was coming after him. The boy ran like he had never run before in his life. It was the first time he had ever seen such a monster. Suddenly, the tree the boy was hiding behind fell as if it had been cut with a knife. The 3-headed monster bit through the trunk as if it were a straw. The boy ran as fast as he could, seeing no obstacles in his way, and rocks flew from under his feet. The boy thought that this 3-headed wolf was going to eat him. The boy's life was already miserable. Suddenly, he tripped over something and fell face down. Tears streamed from his eyes, for the smell from the wolf's mouth was so terrible. The wolf stopped and closed his mouth, but the stench that came out filled the room. Suddenly, the wolf opened its mouth. The stench was unbearable. The boy ran again as fast as he could. He was driven by fear and disgust. Fortunately, the boy activated the Huajia technique he had practiced as a child. For some reason, it worked now. Our hero felt empowered, and his body was enveloped in a fiery aura. This technique was the only thing he could rely on right now. Deciding that he wasn't going to give up so easily, he charged at the wolf. With the help of his aura, he was able to stop the wolf's movement. Our hero decided to keep running, aided by his strength. Finally, he stopped because he was completely exhausted. Suddenly, the silhouette of an even more ferocious monster appeared in front of him. It was a monster much larger than a wolf and even more terrifying. Its eyes glowed with red flames, it had huge teeth, and it was covered in a hard shell. The monster's fangs came in front of the man's face. A moment more and the monster would swallow him whole. And again the chase continued, only this time, instead of a wolf, the boy was being chased by a much scarier monster. The boy thought he had to get out of here, but where and how? Someone was always after him. There was nowhere to go, so he decided to jump into the bushes. He jumped into the bushes and found himself on the edge of a cliff, with someone standing below him. It was a cute girl with a red ribbon in her hair. The guy yelled at her to get out of the way. The girl didn't have time to move, and our hero fell right on top of her. The guy was lying on top of the girl, who couldn't say a word out of fear. She looked at our hero with her eyes wide open, unable to understand where he came from and why he was lying there. The blow made the man's nose bleed. He hit his head again. The girl slapped him and called him a pervert. Suddenly, a fire-breathing monster burst out of the same bushes. The boy pushed the girl aside to save her from the monster. The boy fell to the ground, bleeding. The wound was very deep. Suddenly, a man with a beard and a huge sword appeared and saved the boy from the toothy monster. It was a huge black panther. It left furrows on the ground with its claws. The girl ran to the old man. It was her grandfather. The girl's name was Wei Er. The grandfather asked, "Is she all right?" Wei Er was very smart, so nothing happened to her. The grandfather saw a man lying on the ground. He was badly injured. Wei Er stayed behind to take care of the injured man, while Grandpa went to take care of the panther, who still wouldn't leave. The girl held the boy's head to her chest and asked him how he felt. The guy was in a lot of pain, but he thought that if he was going to die protecting such a sweet thing, it wouldn't be so bad. The guy lost consciousness and remembered the world he used to live in. He was an ordinary guy named Liu Feng. Liu Feng was lying in the middle of the street. People were standing around and laughing at him because he tripped and fell while reading a book. The book was a description of the Huaxia cultivation technique. The girl threw flowers in Liu Feng's face and said that she lost the argument, otherwise she wouldn't have come near him. Make him look at himself in the mirror. Liu Feng stood there as if he had been submerged in water. It turned out to be a lost bet, and he had thought that someone needed him. His whole life was spent in front of a computer. He only socialized with his online friends. His online friend said goodbye to him and told him that he was going to his friend's birthday party. He advised our hero to find a real friend. The two guys sitting at the computer discussed Liu Feng. They called him a loser who couldn't get away from his computer game. His life was worse than a stray dog's. How nice it would be if this all turned out to be a nightmare dream. He began to regain consciousness and saw the outline of a face. He heard someone telling him to get up. Liu Feng slowly regained consciousness and saw the girl he had saved from the panther. It turned out that he was lying in bed, and the girl was standing next to him. He pulled her hand and the girl couldn't hold on and fell on top of him. The guy blushed and was very embarrassed. He was very embarrassed. Suddenly they heard someone calling Liu Feng with a threatening voice. Wei Er told him to leave or Grandpa would get angry. She prepared new clothes for Liu Feng and told him to get dressed quickly. It had been a month since our hero had been in this world. Before that, he was just a loser who hung around internet cafes. An accident happened and he died in a computer explosion, and then he found himself in a magical world. As soon as he appeared in this world, he was chased by a three-headed wolf. But he was lucky. He met a girl named Wei Er and her grandfather who rescued him and even took him with them. On the continent of Yalan, everyone can develop physical and magical strength. There are 11 levels of strength. Those who have reached the 9th level are called masters. Those who reach the 10th level are called saints. Only those who have reached the highest level can become saints. All Liu Feng has is the Hua Xia skill. It's actually nonsense, but when he was young, he thought it was really powerful. He was very surprised that this technique worked in this world. He had nothing to lose in his previous world, so it wasn't a bad thing for him to move to another world. Here, he had hope. Wei Er handed him some clothes and shouted that he was a bum. When Liu Feng got dressed, he looked like a mercenary. The guy didn't understand, was it a compliment or an insult? Our hero thought that Wei Er was so cute and treated him very well. Liu Feng thought that no girl had ever treated him so well. Wei Er's grandfather had his own bar that was popular with the locals. The girl worked with her grandfather, serving beer and vodka to the customers. Liu Feng collected empty glasses from the tables and washed them. Wei Er told him to be careful not to break a glass or Grandpa would beat him up. Grandpa was very angry when he saw how slowly Liu Feng was working. Suddenly the door opened and a man with a sword entered the bar. Liu Feng finally finished washing all the dishes. Wei Er scolded the man for taking so many dishes at once. If he breaks even one glass, his grandfather will kill him. The girl said that she was once careless like Liu Feng, but her grandfather punished her, and since then, she thinks and acts accordingly. Wei Er asked him, why did he save her from the panther in the forest? After all, they didn't even know each other back then. He replied that he couldn't help saving her because he was the one who brought the beast to her. Her life was more important than his. Liu Feng thought that his life was pathetic, and if he died, no one would care. Wei Er got very angry at him for saying such things, and said that he had no right to say such things. The girl said that Liu Feng needed her, and now he was part of her family. Liu Feng was happy to be part of someone's family. It was so nice. When Liu Feng and Wei Er went outside, they encountered a group of cocky guys. One of the guys called Liu Feng a bum and told him to stay away from his bride-to-be. Our hero was terribly upset. Was Wei Er really that guy's fiancé? He asked the girl if it was true that she had a fiancé. She replied that it wasn't true. Wei Er said that she had the right to choose her own groom, and that the boy should go back to where he came from. The boy's name was Lan Di. He was the son of the great president of the academy. He told the girl not to get involved with beggars like Liu Feng. Wei Er replied that Liu Feng was her family's guest and there was no need to call him a beggar. She added that she would rather die than be his bride. Lan Di was terribly angry, but he pretended not to be offended. He said he was afraid that this beggar would insult Wei Er. Lan Di told the girl that she was wrong to refuse someone like him. After all, his father is the master of this town. Liu Feng was shocked by what he heard. However, the girl suggested that he ignore it. Lan Di insisted that Wei Er should not leave him. If she married him, his father could pay for her to study at Xinlan University. Xinlan University is home to elite mages and warriors. They are all descended from famous aristocrats who are no match for ordinary people like Liu Feng. The girl clenched her fists in anger. She didn't like Lan Di's words at all. Liu Feng covered the girl's hand with his hand and called the guy a bastard who wanted to force Wei Er to marry him for money. A guy from Lan Di's entourage suggested that he teach our hero a lesson. The guys rushed at Liu Feng with swords, but Lan Di told him not to kill him, just to teach him a lesson. Grabbing the girl's hand, Liu Feng immediately dodged between the attackers. They ran towards Lan Di, who stood aside. Liu Feng told him that he only knew how to bully people all day long. Our hero told Lan Di that he was just an ordinary little bully hiding behind his father. Liu Feng's words infuriated Lan Di. He grabbed his sword and brandished it. The guy charged at Liu Feng with his sword, and the guy charged at Lan Di. Our hero hit Lan Di and managed to dodge the sword strike. With this level of sword skills, Lan Di had no chance to even touch Liu Feng. Liu Feng didn't have a weapon in his hands, so he decided to hit Lan Di with his fist. He fell down from the blow to his jaw, and the swordsman just turned around to run to help him. Everything happened so fast. Liu Feng was moving so fast that he seemed to be in different places at the same time, dodging the attacks of the attackers. After a few moments, all of the attackers were lying on the ground. Liu Feng noticed that his strength and speed had tripled. He had a feeling that this was the internal strength mentioned in the exercises he had practiced in his past life. This meant that he had acquired the internal strength described in Huaxia's practice. Liu Feng and Wei Er were walking down the street. The girl didn't expect Liu Feng to have such strength. The guy was worried that they might get into trouble because Lan Di's father was the master of the city. Wei Er calmed him down by saying that they were the first to attack. If Lan Di came to them with her father, she would tell the teacher everything. Happy, they ran away from the place. They didn't want to be late for work at the bar. Wei Er thought that she felt safe with Liu Feng, but it was obvious that he fought without using spirit and magic. The girl wondered, how did Liu Feng end up in her world, and where did he get such strength from? Wei Er suggested that Liu Feng go to the market. There were so many new things there today. Our hero was in a great mood, walking down the street singing songs. Wei Er asked him what made him so happy. Liu Feng replied that he was able to perfect the Huaxia technique today. Wei Er didn't know what that was. Liu Feng told her that the only thing she needed to know was that he would be able to protect her in the future. Liu Feng and Wei Er ran to the tavern and called out to Grandpa that they had returned. At that time, the fighters along with Lan Di were tooling around the tavern. A tall, burly man lifted Wei Er's grandfather into the air and held him by the neck. Dead and wounded people lay on the ground, and broken swords were strewn about. His grandfather, who was being held by the throat, could barely utter a word that they should run away from here quickly. The bulky man holding his grandfather in the air was Lei Ting, the lord of Rongma City and Lan Di's father. Suddenly, Lan Di saw Liu Feng and shouted that he was the one who humiliated him and called his family trash. Liu Feng was taken aback by the surprise, but he prepared for a fight just in case. Lan Di was furious because no one had the right to humiliate him. Liu Feng shouted at Lan Di's father to let go of his grandfather. Lord Lei Ten continued to hold the old man's weight and smiled while his son looked out from behind him. Lei Ten touched Liu Feng's forehead with his finger and could see his technique. Grandfather Wei Er was still hanging in the air and a bright flame was emitted from the Lord's hand. His technique was so powerful that he sent our hero straight into the wall with a single movement of his finger. Liu Feng fell down and a pile of rocks fell on top of him. Wei Er threatened the Lord that she would tell her teacher what he had done here. The Lord told the girl that she would never see her teacher again and extended his hand to her. He wanted to use her to contact the four saints, but Wei Er was not interested. He couldn't leave any witnesses. She felt suffocated and couldn't breathe. She couldn't even cast a spell. But suddenly, Liu Feng's angry face appeared from the pile of stones. Our hero rushed forward with all his might. Surprised, the Lord let go of his grandfather and fell to the ground. Liu Feng picked up the grandfather and they fell to the ground together. Lei Tang stood up with a raised finger. An energy gathered on the tip of his finger that held the sword above his head. The Lord stood smiling and pointed his finger in the direction of the sword. The sword pierced his grandfather's back and emerged from his chest. Liu Feng was shocked by what had happened. His grandfather shouted for them to run, and he would stop the enemies. A sword emerged from his back, piercing his body. His grandfather stood up and covered our hero with his body. Blood flowed from the wound in his chest. The Lord raised his finger again and asked why grandfather was so eager to die. Liu Feng found himself in an energy field surrounding him. Inside this field, Lord Lei Tang's sword was circling. This very minute, Wei Er found her strength and threw off what was choking her. She began to use her skills as well. The girl flew into the air and soared high. She was carried by an energy current. Wei Er's aura was so strong that Lord Lei Tang and his son even covered their eyes with their hands. The Lord said that such power was worthy of a saint, but it didn't work on him. He stretched out his hand and defended against the effects of Wei Er's power. The invisible ropes began to strangle the girl's throat again. Lei Ten knocked Wei Er down with a flick of his hand and stopped her movement. From behind, Liu Feng was ready to pounce on him. Lan Di warned his father to be more careful, but with a flick of his hand, Liu Feng was once again thrown back with such force that he kicked the door. At the same time, the Lord used his other hand to send out an energy that suffocated Wei Er. Suddenly, Liu Feng felt the same power that Lord Lei Tang had used in his hands. Our hero tried to attack the Lord, but the Lord calmly told him to take his time to die because he had to see how it would end. He asked his son if he liked Wei Er. Lan Di was pleased with her. Lei Tang told his son that Wei Er belonged to him now. Liu Feng couldn't accept it, so he fearfully shouted that if Lan Di touched her with one finger, he would kill him. The Lord's son ignored his threats and stroked Wei Er's face as she cried bitterly. Lan Di began to tear off the girl's clothes as she struggled desperately. Our hero rushed to the girl's defense with all his legs. The Lord watched his attempts to protect Wei Er with interest. With a single wave of his hand, he used his energy to send Liu Feng flying again. While Lan Di was having fun with Wei Er, his father thought that as long as the saints weren't real saints, it wouldn't be difficult to destroy them. The Lord said that if Wei Er's teacher asked what happened to her, he would say that some unknown person came and killed her. Such low treachery infuriated our hero. But the Lord just smiled and asked Liu Feng if he could just die and go to hell in peace. The guy sent him away, and in return, the Lord used his technique on him again. Liu Feng flew straight into the wall. At this time, Wei Er freed herself from the hated rapist. She used her technique, and a crystal appeared in front of her face, glowing with a soft blue light. The girl told Liu Feng that everything would be fine, so he didn't need to worry. When the Lord saw the crystal in front of the girl's face, he shouted that she was going to blow herself up. The girl found herself inside an aura ball and curled up into a ball. Liu Feng rushed over and asked her not to do that. Wei Er said that she was glad to meet Liu Feng and wished him good luck. Tears welled up in our hero's eyes when he saw that he couldn't change anything. He tried to break through to Wei Er, but the girl was covered in a thick layer of aura, and he couldn't get close to her. She tossed him her red hair ribbon as a souvenir. A huge explosion rang out, and the wall crumbled into a pile of rocks. Lord Lei Tang covered his son so that the rocks wouldn't hit his head. Liu Feng was teleported into a dormant forest. He fell directly into a forest clearing. He was holding a red Wei Er ribbon in his hands. The boy knelt down and held the ribbon to his chest. He couldn't believe that Wei Er and her grandfather had died. Liu Feng vowed that he would avenge Wei Er and her grandfather. He vowed to kill that bastard. Our hero stood up and looked around. He couldn't figure out where he was. There was a dense forest all around. Liu Feng had to go back to avenge Wei Er and his grandfather. Suddenly the strongest wind came. It blew with such force that rocks fell. Liu Feng saw a huge dragon flying towards him. It was being chased by 2 men with swords. A man in a red cloak with a sword in his hand was trying to attack this dragon. The dragon's strength was so great that its wings knocked the swords out of the attacker's hands. It was a black dragon. It had already opened its jaws with sharp, long teeth, preparing to swallow anyone it came across. Liu Feng stood there like a stumbling block. He was simply paralyzed with fear. The dragon opened its jaws and pounced on our hero. The dragon's teeth were right next to Liu Feng's head. He decided to use the only technique he knew. The dragon closed its mouth and sniffed around. It was confused by a certain smell. It sensed that there was an earthling in front of it. While the dragon was sniffing at Liu Feng, a bunch of arrows flew at him. Our hero stood there with his hands in the air, not understanding anything. Blood spurted from the dragon's body, which had received several wounds, and splattered our man. Not far away, a man with a bow stood there, shooting arrows at a furious pace. Liu Feng stood there, covered in the dragon's blood, and the dragon lay at his feet. The guy saw his savior and asked him why he did it. It was a bow, a dragon-killing bow, and the person who shot it didn't even notice Liu Feng. The dragon was being chased by several people wearing gray cloaks. They were hunting for its egg. Some strange people flew through the air, shooting meteorite fire at the dragon. Liu Feng crouched down and covered his face with his hands to escape the barrage of meteorites falling from the sky. Our hero couldn't understand why these people were protecting him. Suddenly, the dragon approached Liu Feng and spoke to him. He said that he would stop these people, and that Liu Feng should go first. Our hero fell to the ground in surprise. Suddenly, Liu Feng saw Wei Er's grandfather running ahead with a dagger in his back. There were also people with swords and axes floating in the air, trying to attack the dragon. There was an aura coming from the dragon, protecting Liu Feng and attacking the enemies at the same time. Suddenly, Liu Feng felt the dragon's blood entering his body. Our hero felt the power of the aura penetrating his entire body. He received the dragon's fury. Liu Feng felt the power and rushed towards the people attacking the dragon. A terrifying power appeared in his hands, and he became powerful and evil. A green-eyed man with a green mustache told Liu Feng that his anger would not help him. A girl with long purple hair swung an axe at our hero. Liu Feng raised his hand and stopped the axe with his fist. The girl who attacked Liu Feng flew to the side along with the axe. The black dragon had warned our guy to stay back, because these 7th level masters have holy weapons. The male attacker couldn't understand how Liu Feng could resist his wind. The dragon hugged our hero with its tail and asked him to wait for a while. Liu Feng's energy body rushed forward to attack the purple-haired girl. While the energy body distracted the enemy, Liu Feng approached him from behind. Our guy gathered the power he had been possessed by and prepared to attack. The purple-haired girl standing with her back to him suddenly sensed danger from behind and turned around. The man with green hair and green mustache hit Liu Feng's leg with his hammer. The blow was so powerful that it sent Liu Feng flying back many meters, leaving a furrow on the ground behind him. Our hero was sitting on a pile of stones. Suddenly he was in danger again. The man with the hammer threw a huge red core in his direction. The black dragon roared loudly for Liu Feng to be more careful. The dragon rushed to the man's defense and covered him with its body from the cannonball. The people who attacked Liu Feng were saints with tremendous strength. However, they were still not as strong as this man, the lord of the city. Our hero thought back to Lord Lei Tang, who had killed Wei Er's grandfather, and thought how great his strength was. Suddenly, blood spurted from his throat. His inner strength was exhausted, and the effect of the dragon's fury had already passed. And the black dragon kept trying to be attacked by the saints who flew around him like flies. Suddenly, the dragon roared in pain. One of the attackers severely wounded the dragon with his sword. The girl with the purple hair called to her comrades and said that the black dragon had weakened and was ready to attack. The men with swords ran as fast as they could to finish off the dragon. The dragon couldn't handle the attackers and told our hero to get out of here. He grabbed the guy with his clawed paw like a kitten. The black dragon soared into the sky holding Liu Feng in its paw. The attackers tried to shoot at it with their bows, but they were unsuccessful. The one who wounded the dragon realized that they were trying to escape through the portal and threw his blade at the dragon. The blade went right through the dragon's heart. Blood spurted and the dragon roared in pain. With the last of its strength, the bleeding dragon flew to the portal and asked it to open. The dragon had already approached the portal and stuck its head through, and now there was nothing where the portal used to be. It had closed. The dragon and Liu Feng managed to escape through the portal. The attackers ran to where the portal used to be. The sword of one of them moved to the right, with the dragon in its body. The girl with long purple hair told everyone not to worry, as her spell was already working on the escapees. Therefore, they wouldn't be able to get far. Liu Feng found himself in a cave. He had a very bad headache and couldn't understand where he was. He heard a voice telling him to wake up quickly. Our hero asked, "Who is here?" Leaning against the wall of the cave, a man sat on the floor. The hilt of a dagger was sticking out of his chest. He said that Liu Feng had saved him. Our hero was very surprised that he had saved someone, but the sword looked familiar to him. Next to him was someone who asked if Liu Feng recognized him. It was a black dragon. Liu Feng crouched down next to him and tried to pull the sword out of his chest. The guy who used to be a black dragon screamed in pain and said that the sword couldn't be pulled out like that. It would cause severe bleeding. Our hero quickly let go of the sword hilt, but blood was already flowing from the wound. The sword was pulled out after all, and blood was flowing from the dragon's wound. Liu Feng was afraid that this guy was going to die. There was a gaping wound on his chest, but he assured Liu Feng that this wound would heal in a month. This was the Dragon Fortress. The humans who hunted them could no longer find this place. Liu Feng asked the dragon who these humans were and why they were attacking him. The dragon told him that they were people from the Fourth Empire. They were mercenaries who wanted to steal his dragon eggs. The dragon went to the garbage pile and said that he would show Liu Feng the eggs. Liu Feng wondered why the dragon was hiding the eggs in the garbage dump. The dragon found a huge egg and showed it to our hero. Liu Feng replied that the dragon's egg looked like an ordinary egg, only enlarged. The dragon lovingly looked at the egg and said that his girl was inside. The dragon said that when he woke up about 6 months ago, he appeared as a black dragon. After sleeping, he yawned, and an egg came out of his mouth. The egg he spat out was supposed to be his child. Liu Feng thought it was very strange. The dragon said that he was giving this egg to our hero so that he wouldn't wander around this world since it wasn't Earth. When our hero heard the mention of Earth, he got very, very excited and asked, "How did the dragon know about Earth?" The dragon replied that he had hit the Earth before. Our hero thought that the dragon had hit the Earth. But the dragon explained that he had become a dragon exactly 6 months ago and managed to hit the Earth in that time. Suddenly the dragon felt bad and said that his wound was very sore. The dragon said that our hero must have many questions for him. For example, why does he stay in a human body while he is a dragon? The dragon said that there are less than 100 dragons in the world. Liu Feng asked, if they are so rare, why do the people of the Fourth Empire dare to steal dragon eggs? Many years ago, the black dragons were banished from the dragon world, so people started stealing dragon eggs. They knew that the black dragons wouldn't be helped by the others. They needed the eggs to get the power of the dragon. There are some people who hunt for a dragon egg all day long. If the black dragon knew the way back, he would return to Earth. Liu Feng had another question. Why was this special place where his power was awakened? The dragon replied that it couldn't sense Liu Feng's magic, but it had good fighting power. Liu Feng said that it was due to some kind of internal practice he was doing. The dragon told our hero that his power might be different in this world. The dragon asked, how did he end up in a forest like this by himself? It looks like he has been here for a long time. Our hero remembered everything that had happened to him in the past few days on Earth. He remembered Wei-Er and his grandfather and how they died. He wanted to find the killer of Wei-Er and his grandfather. The dragon said that Wei-Er might be in this world. There is a god of life, and he resurrects those who die before reaching their destination. Liu Feng was very surprised. Could the gods of life really bring Wei-Er back? How would one go about finding her? Suddenly the ground beneath my feet shook and began to crack. The dragon said the vibrations were coming from humans. How did they find this place? He swung his fist and hit a blue substance. It was tracking magic. The dragon asked our hero to take the egg with his daughter to a safe place while using teleportation magic. Liu Feng was worried about the dragon, but the dragon calmed him down and told him that he could fly away from them. When he wants to escape from someone, no one can catch him. Our hero took the dragon's egg and held onto it. The dragon told Liu Feng to go first, and he would find him later after taking care of these people. The dragon threw his sword at him and shouted for him to catch it. Liu Feng caught the dragon's sword without letting go of the egg in his hands and held it tightly. The dragon warned him not to misuse the sword or it would attack him. To Liu Feng, the dragon told him that his daughter would take care of him. Our hero was frustrated. He was always weak and always had someone to protect him. He must become stronger to resurrect Wei-Er. Our hero made a decision that he would protect others in the future. The dragon directed a stream of energy at him, and an aura surrounded him from all sides. But then there was a hesitation, and the dragon was afraid that the humans would break the portal. The dragon shouted at Liu Feng to stop and wait. The teleportation was delayed, but the portal began to suck him in, and our hero could no longer stop his movement. He was terrified. His cheek was wounded, and drops of blood ran down his chest. A drop of blood fell on the egg that Liu Feng was holding. Even though the dragon told him not to go into the portal, Liu Feng couldn't stop moving, and he was sucked in somewhere. He stepped through the portal and landed. He hit the ground with such force that blood spurted out of his mouth, and the egg he was holding cracked from the impact. Liu Feng found himself in the territory of the orcs. He stuck his sword into the ground and began to examine the egg. Our hero was horrified to see that the egg had cracked when it fell. The guy was still holding the egg in his hands, but the crack in the egg was getting bigger, and a strange light was emanating from it. Liu Feng was terrified and thought that the egg was about to explode right in his hands. As soon as this thought flashed through his mind, a huge explosion sounded. It was so... Our hero was horrified to see that the egg had cracked when it fell. The guy was still holding the egg in his hands, but the crack in the egg was getting bigger, and a strange light was emanating from it. Liu Feng was terrified and thought that the egg was about to explode right in his hands. As soon as this thought flashed through his mind, a huge explosion sounded. It was so powerful that it threw Liu Feng into the air. He realized that it was a dragon hatching from an egg. As it happened, the egg cracked open completely, and a tiny dragon appeared in front of Liu Feng's eyes. The dragon was so cute and looked at him as if it were his mother. Liu Feng thought it was a girl. He really liked her because she was so cute. Suddenly the dragon turned into a human and kicked Liu Feng in the jaw. It was not a girl, but a real boy. Our hero was holding his cheek with his hand, and in front of him was a little naked boy with a dragon tail. The little dragon boy really didn't like Liu Feng calling him a girl, so he slapped his tail, causing our hero's head to fall back. Liu Feng told the dragon that it was his father who thought he was a girl, so let him beat him. After all, our hero had shed a lot of blood for the dragon boy to be born. The guy didn't understand why he had to mess around with that nasty little dragon. Eventually the baby settled down on Liu Feng's head and calmed down a bit. But then a new problem arose. It turned out that the dragon was hungry. It wanted meat. Our boy had no choice but to find some meat for the dragon's lunch. So Liu Feng, with the dragon on his head, decided to look around and find some meat. We see a man with a golden crown on his head wearing golden clothes. The man with the crown on his head and his two companions approached the area where the dragons live. They saw a stranger, but could not tell if it was a dragon or a human. After about an hour, the dragon man started screaming because he was very hungry. Finally, Liu Feng killed a beast, made a fire, and roasted it on a spit. The smell of the meat was amazing. When the meat was roasted, our hero gave it to the dragon. Liu Feng was happy that the dragon had satisfied his hunger. He said that if it wasn't enough, he would catch the beast again. The dragon suddenly stopped eating the meat and looked at our hero, but he reassured him by saying that the dragon could eat anything since he himself was not hungry. The dragon said that he didn't like the taste of the meat. Liu Feng felt strange. It turned out that the dragon was difficult to please. Evening came. They sat by the fire, and Liu Feng thought that the dragon had not told him the baby's name. Our hero decided to name the dragon himself. He called it Xiao Jin, which means effect, because it was born in a very spectacular way. However, the baby got hungry and fell asleep on Liu Feng's lap. He looked at the sleeping dragon baby and thought about his father. Had he managed to escape? If the dragon entrusted the baby to him, he would definitely take care of it. Liu Feng kept thinking that he had to become stronger to protect Xiao Jin and resurrect Wei Er. He looked around and thought, this isn't a bad place to practice. You just have to practice more. We see the main palace of the Xinglan Empire. In a beautiful room there was a man in a yellow robe. It was the emperor. His eyes were shooting lightning bolts and he was angry. A servant told him that the team that tried to capture the dragon eggs had failed. The man on his knees said that the mission had failed and the black dragon had escaped. The emperor was furious. He shouted that everyone here was worthless. Even with holy weapons, they couldn't defeat the dragon. The servant replied that the team's report contained information about the dragon's personal assistant. The emperor wondered what kind of assistant they were talking about. He was told it was a child with black hair and black pupils. The servant said his subordinates were looking for her. The emperor said there was no need, as he had other plans. 10 days later, we see Liu Feng and the dragon lying on the grass, pretending to be dead and disguised. They had earth on their heads and flowers growing on their heads. As time passed, the wind blew the petals off the flowers on their heads, but they still couldn't catch anyone. The flowers on their heads wilted. The baby dragon was very hungry. Liu Feng reassured him that they would catch someone soon. They just need to concentrate on hunting. They saw some kind of beast pass by. It was a huge wolf with burning eyes and sharp fangs. The wolf was very close, and the dragonkin was already anticipating his dinner. The wolf turned around when it heard someone's voice. Liu Feng and the dragonkin slipped into the ground they were lying on out of fear. Not far from them was a group of men with bows, arrows, and axes. One of the men took out a pair of binoculars and looked through them. He saw a boy and an unidentified creature lying on the ground, trembling with fear. The man looking through the binoculars said that the boy was asking for help. They were being chased by a level 7 red wolf. These people decided to save our hero. But then one of them, named Beta, told the leader that he thought something was wrong here. He said that there were many signs placed there. They've been searching for a long time, but they haven't found anything. That's strange, to say the least. Everyone around this boy also looks very strange. Beta was sure that something was wrong. The leader knew that Beta was very cautious. But this child's life was more important right now. There was no way the fire mercenary regiment was going to lose. The leader ordered them to move forward, and they decided to attack the wolf. The team rushed forward, one of them shooting a bow, the second wielding a sword, and the third holding a spear. The fourth was an old man of small stature, but he had the most formidable appearance. Each of them had a different weapon. The team leader had a sword. The old man who looked like a Viking held a huge axe. Beta was wielding some kind of superpowered spear to perfection. The arrow fired by the archer hit the wolf right in the forehead. The wolf opened its fanged mouth and lunged at the men attacking it. The wolf's attack was so strong that the attackers turned and fled. The leader of the mercenaries shouted to Liu Feng that they had distracted the wolf and to run. Dragonlance looked after the fleeing wolf and the people trying to save it. The Dragonkin burst into tears because these people had stolen his lunch. Liu Feng rose from the ground and explained to the Dragonkin that the humans were trying to distract the wolf in order to save it. They can't sit back. Our hero ran so fast that only the wind whistled. The Dragonkin ran after him. The wolf was still running after the humans, and it looked like he was going to catch them. The humans ran as hard as they could, sweat pouring down their faces, but they couldn't outrun the wolf. The one who looked like a Viking was angry with the leader. Why did he have to be a hero when he couldn't defeat the wolf? The wolf's fangs snapped behind their backs, and suddenly, the unexpected happened. The leader stumbled and fell. At that moment, the wolf jumped up and prepared to attack the leader. All the people froze in fear. The leader thought he was finished. Sweat broke out on his face. His comrades watched as the wolf was about to tear their leader apart. The wolf's muzzle was already inches from the leader's face. One more moment, and it would tear him to pieces. Suddenly, the wolf roared in pain and began to bleed. The wolf's blood began to drip onto the terrified leader, staining his face and clothes. A man with a sword on his shoulder stood before him, smiling. The slain wolf lay on the ground with a grinning mouth. Liu Feng thanked the leader for saving his life. There was a dragon sitting on Liu Feng's head. When he saw the dead wolf, he was very happy that he would have meat today. The people couldn't understand what was going on and why the dragon was so happy. After a while, they sat around the fire and roasted a huge wolf's leg. Everyone ate the meat, and the Dragonkin took the biggest piece for himself. The chief laughed for a long time when he realized that it was not the wolf chasing Liu Feng, but Liu Feng chasing the wolf. Our hero explained to him that he had lured the beasts with signs, but the wolf ran after the mercenaries when it saw them. The little dragon ate a piece of meat and took another for himself. It was impossible to understand how it could fit so much in there. The chief asked Liu Feng how he ended up here with the little dragon. Liu Feng replied that they had nowhere else to go. The chief was very surprised to hear that our hero had nowhere else to go. Liu Feng explained that they were lost and didn't know where to go. The chief's name was Ken Shi, and he knew the whole continent very well. He told Liu Feng not to worry and asked him, "Where do you want to go?" "Maybe Ken knows where the goddess of life is," Ken wondered. He had never heard of the goddess of life before. Beta said that after the battle of the gods ended many years ago, all the gods stopped their activities. Since then, no one had ever seen the goddess of life. Liu Feng was very upset. What should he do now? He sat down on the ground and put his sword next to him. He thought about Wei Er. Is it possible for her to survive? Ken calmed him down by saying that just because no one had ever seen the goddess of life, it didn't mean that she didn't exist. He invited Liu Feng to join their mercenary regiment. After becoming a mercenary, Liu Feng would be able to go to the mercenary guild, buy all the information, and find the goddess of life. Ken praised the life of a mercenary. After all, one could complete a quest, get a reward, and not worry about food. Liu Feng thought of the information about the goddess of life, and Dragon Man thought of meat and other food. So they agreed to join the mercenaries without a second thought. Liu Feng told the chief that he and the Dragonkin had agreed to join his troop. Ken happily accepted the news. After all, with Liu Feng joining them, their regiment would definitely have a chance to become the best mercenary regiment. The mercenaries also liked the idea of becoming the most famous mercenary regiment together with Liu Feng. Only Beta was very skeptical about the idea. Ken pointed to a pile of papers taller than a desk and said that it was a contract that needed to be signed. Seeing such a pile of papers, Liu Feng wondered, where did Ken hide it before? It's so big, and what does it say? Seeing Liu Feng's confusion, Ken decided to explain everything to him. He started listing all the benefits of the contract in terms of medical care, paid vacations, housing allowance, insurance, and so on. Liu Feng got tired of listening to this and shouted that he would sign the contract just to make Ken stop. Liu Feng, his dragon, and the mercenary regiment went to a hillside and saw a large palace. It was a magnificent palace with towers and spires called Sunset Fortress. Liu Feng and the other mercenaries walked up to it and stopped not far from the fortress gate. In the square near the palace, there was a small tavern. Liu Feng and the other mercenaries came here to drink beer and eat. Ken told Liu Feng that this mercenary tavern is the best place in Sunset Fortress. Mercenaries like to come here to drink wine. The Dragonkin liked this place because it was really fun, and the Dragonkin saw many beautiful girls. The girl at the bar served 2 drinks. It was the dragon blood beer that the mercenaries had ordered. The girl served the little dragon an orange juice. The dragon boy was offended. Why did they all order beer and give him juice? He went to the waitress and asked for the strongest beer. The girl explained that he was still very young and drinking alcohol was very bad for him. Xiaojin said that considering the time he spent in the egg, he was hundreds of years old. The girl couldn't believe what he was saying. What do you mean, the time you spent in the egg? She laughed and asked, What does the little guy mean when he says he is a dragon? Xiao Jing was about to confirm it, but Liu Feng covered his mouth with his hand in time. The girl said that she had to go to work now and would play with him later. The dragon boy liked the girl very much and asked her not to leave. Liu Feng wondered, are children really growing up so early now? Liu Feng was already a little drunk from the beer, and the dragon boy bothered him by asking why he wouldn't let him say he was a dragon. Liu Feng sat behind the bar and whirled around. He told the dragonkin that if people knew who he was, they would hunt him down. The dragonkin promised to keep quiet. After all, he didn't want to die. Ken approached our hero, asked if he was hungry, and offered to give him a treat. The young dragonkin got very excited when he heard about the food. Ken told him that he could choose anything he wanted. Dragon Boy called the waitress over and said he wanted to place an order. The girl brought Dragon Boy a huge piece of meat, and he ate it like he hadn't eaten in 3 years. Liu Feng asked Ken if it was true that the merchants knew about the goddess of life. Ken explained that this was the Sunset Fortress, where most of the merchants gathered. Any information could be found in the mercenaries' tavern. Ken told our hero that they have already questioned some merchants, but they don't know anything. It seems that the goddess of life is not easy to find, but Liu Feng decided not to give up. Ken asked Liu Feng, what does he want the goddess of life for? For the sake of immortality? Liu Feng remembered the beautiful Wei heir and her grandfather who saved his life at the cost of his life. He told Ken that he had lost someone important to him, and hoped that the goddess of life would help him resurrect her. Ken replied that Liu Feng was loving and fair, and he was very happy to be his friend. Liu Feng thanked Ken for his kind words. He was very pleased. Suddenly a neighboring table shouted, how could a child do that? Liu Feng thought that the child might be Xiao Jin, since he was not present. All the mercenaries gathered around the table, their surprise incomparable. The dragon child was sitting at the table eating a huge piece of meat. The chewed bones lay nearby. Liu Feng grabbed his head. Did the dragon child really eat everything? As Xiao Jin finished eating the meat, the waitress brought him a huge cake. At that time, the bell at the entrance rang and a group of people entered the tavern. There was a huge man with a skinny girl and a few other people. The man was the second in command of a mercenary regiment named Wu Ka. Ken was startled when he saw the second in command and thought, why is he here? He grabbed Liu Feng's arm. Liu Feng grabbed Dragon Man's arm, and Dragon Man grabbed a piece of meat, and they walked out of the tavern. Ken said that they were people from Rhapsody's mercenary regiment. They used to have conflicts, and today they came as a group. The ringleader sat down in a chair and put his girlfriend on his lap while a servant massaged his back. The waitress brought him a menu. So far, everything was quiet. Ken saw his old acquaintances and decided to introduce them to his new friends. The head of the Rhapsody mercenaries offered his girlfriend roast beef. It was very good here. He snapped his fingers and a waitress came over. He ordered 2 portions of roast beef for her. The waitress apologized and said that the beef was out today. Then he suggested that his girlfriend try the fried dragon claws, which were also very tasty. The dragon claws were also sold. The leader of the mercenary team asked, what do you have now? The waitress replied that all the meat was sold out and only vegetables were left. He couldn't believe it. How could all the meat be sold out? The waitress explained that all the meat had been ordered by another customer who was now at the bar. At that time, Ken and Liu Feng were happily chatting with their friends behind the bar. The leader of the Rhapsody mercenaries saw Ken and thought that he had run into an old acquaintance. Ken told his friends how Liu Feng had defeated a level 7 red wolf with a single sword stroke. Ken's friends didn't believe him. Does Liu Feng have the power of the saints? He replied that he did. Suddenly the leader of the Rhapsody mercenaries approached Ken and asked him why he didn't die with the grassland orcs. He said that the Rhapsody mercenary regiment had prepared a funeral for them, but they had messed it up. Ken told Wu Kai not to go too far. The head of the mercenaries, Wu Kai, didn't understand where Ken got such insolence from. He looked at Liu Feng and said, this brat couldn't defeat a level 7 wolf with a single blow. He has no fighting spirit at all. Wu Kai and his mercenaries laughed at Liu Feng, but Khan proved that it was true that he was able to defeat the red wolf after all. Wu Kai said that he was also at the 7th level, and he would let Liu Feng kill him. He set a condition that if he didn't fall, it would prove that Wu Kai was a wastrel who only knew how to show off. Liu Feng offered to raise the stakes, and if Wu Kai loses, he will leave here forever. Wu Kai agreed and offered to find out who was stronger right away. Ken shouted that the mercenary leader was lying. He actually has a level 8. Wu Kai laughed and said that they should surrender. Ken stopped Liu Feng and told him not to dare to fight Wu Kai. Liu Feng told Ken to trust in his strength. He took a pipe from the waitress's glass. They came out and faced each other, Wu Kai and Liu Feng. One was like a mountain, while the other was small and skinny. Our hero didn't need a sword to deal with Wu Kai. A pipe was all he needed. Wu Kai was furious. He said that he would make Liu Feng regret meeting him. Liu Feng reached out and brought the pipe right to Wu Kai's mouth. Our hero said that Wu Kai would regret hurting his friend. The other mercenaries watched the duel in amazement. They didn't think there were people who would dare challenge Wu Kai. The Dragonkin paid no attention to them as he finished eating his meat. Wu Kai and Liu Feng stood up and prepared to fight. Behind them were their men. The battle hadn't started yet. Liu Feng stood like this, holding a pipe in his hands. Wu Kai looked so angry that Ken's comrades were very worried about our hero. Ken Shi was also very worried about Liu Feng because Wu Kai's strength was beyond imagination. He said that he had seen Liu Feng kill a red wolf with a single sword with his own eyes. Even though Wu Kai was stronger than that wolf, he was definitely not the opponent who could defeat Liu Feng. Ken even decided to bet with his comrades that Liu Feng would win. Wu Kai felt strange when he saw little Liu Feng. Our hero said that he was always willing to fight, but not willing to die. Wu Kai got tired of talking and went to attack Liu Feng. Liu Feng decided to try a new Huaxia technique trick on him that he had learned the other day. Liu Feng closed his eyes and began to cast a spell. Wu Kai swung around and struck out with his fist, but Liu Feng skillfully dodged it. Our hero created a clone. Wu Kai saw two Liu Fengs and couldn't understand where the second one came from. Liu Feng and his energy doppelganger attacked Wu Kai. He didn't expect such an attack. The blows were quite tangible, and blood spurted from Wu Kai's nose. Liu Feng enveloped himself in an aura and began to strike with his aura. Wu Kai was used to fighting with his fists, so he couldn't understand where the blows were coming from. He fell and broke the tables. It looked like he would not come to his senses today. His men were shocked. He fell from a single blow. Had he been lying about his strength? Ken was happy that Liu Feng was able to defeat Wu Kai. Wu Kai's men tried to pull him away. They threatened Liu Feng that they would make him pay for what he had done. Our hero saw Wu Kai being dragged down the street and thought, no matter what world you are in, villains always say the same thing. Since Ken had bet on Liu Feng to win, he had made a lot of money and wanted to give him half of it. Ken told our hero that Wu Kai would never forgive him. Liu Feng replied that he would take the dragon and leave immediately. Ken went to the waitress and asked her to count everything that was broken. He wanted to compensate her for the damage. The waitress took a bag full of money. The rest of the money he wanted to give her as a tip. But the girl said it wasn't enough to pay for the meal and all the things they broke. Ken was very embarrassed. He blushed and asked for the check. When Ken and Liu Feng saw the check, they were shocked. Dragon Boy had eaten everything in the tavern. Liu Feng and Ken had to pawn their clothes. Our hero said that it was all his fault because it was his dragon that ate everything. Ken told him not to worry because he accepted our hero as a brother. Unfortunately, they were left with a huge debt at the tavern. Liu Feng and Ken were walking through the forest when they heard a voice from behind. A man in a hooded robe told them that he had a mission. Do you want to take it? We see a luxurious house with large windows and balconies. In the backyard of this house, people were sitting in a kind of mud. They were holding out their hands and begging Chief Motu. It was a swamp. People were drowning in it and holding out their hands and begging to be saved. They said it wouldn't happen next time. One of the men had already drowned in the swamp, and only his hand was still on the surface. Servants ran out of the house shouting that Deputy Chief Wu Kai had been defeated. They stopped at the swamp and said that there was a newcomer in Kun Shi's party who had defeated Wu Kai with a single blow. A head emerged from the swamp and asked if it was true. Then a complete person appeared. It was Motu, the head of the mercenary guild. He was surprised. After all, Wu Kai was at level 8, so who could defeat him with a single blow? Motu wanted to see who had decided to attack his men. He came out of the swamp all dirty. The servants said that if the scouts were to be believed, he had just joined the mercenary guild. Motu wondered, why would they go to the mercenary guild? The house that belonged to the mercenary guild was made of red bricks with huge windows and a green pitched roof. Liu Feng, the Dragon Kid, and Ken Shi were walking through the courtyard. Ken was very happy that Liu Feng had joined his team. He was sure that Liu Feng's level was much higher than the 8th level, and he was the strongest in their team so far. This meant that he could take on more difficult missions and earn more money. Liu Feng thought that this was strange. Then why did he refuse the person who offered him the mission? Ken asked our hero, what is he thinking about? At that time, they came to a huge hall with a transparent dome, and in the middle there was a stone hanging on chains. It was a stone that measured strength. The mercenaries approached the stone and struck it with their fists. Next to it was a person who would determine the level of the mercenary. Liu Feng also wanted to try to find out his level. He approached the person who recorded the levels of the mercenaries and asked if he could try to measure his strength as well. One had to stand in the middle and hit the stone as hard as possible. Liu Feng did just that. He walked over to the stone and stood in the middle. Then he struck the stone with all his might. But nothing happened. The stone didn't react to his punch at all. The person who kept track of the levels went over and asked Liu Feng, is he really a warrior? Could he possibly be a mage? Everyone shouted that Liu Feng had no spirit. How could he be a warrior without a soul? A stooped man came up to Liu Feng, grabbed his shirt, and told him to go home and not to stand in line here. Liu Feng humbly asked what would happen if he didn't go. The mercenary replied that he would just beat him up if he didn't leave. After saying that, Liu Feng clenched his fist and swung. Liu Feng struck with such force that the mercenary fell to the ground. He was unconscious and his head was turned to the side. No one could believe that this boy could strike with such power. Our hero approached the man who kept track of the levels and asked him to check him again. The dragon child was very happy that Liu Feng had managed to knock out the mercenary. Suddenly, a girl appeared in the hall and said that according to the rules of the association, fighting outside the hall was forbidden. The girl was the president of the Sunset Fortress Mercenary Guild named Sophie. She was a beautiful red-haired girl with gorgeous breasts. All the men, including Ken, looked at her with admiration. Dragon Boy also liked Miss Sophie very much. He even opened his mouth in surprise. The girl was so attractive. She approached our hero and asked him what he had done. Our hero pointed to the mercenary lying on the ground and said that he had attacked first and was only defending himself. The man who recorded the levels of the mercenaries whispered in Sophie's ear that Liu Feng was lying. The mercenary lying on the ground was already foaming at the mouth. Miss Sophie said that Liu Feng has no spirit or magic, yet he wants to become a mercenary. Our hero parried that to be a mercenary, one needs strength, and he has it. Miss Sophie thought for a moment. Yes, power solved everything. You could do anything with it. Since the stone test didn't work, Sophie decided to test our hero herself. Liu Feng asked, why did she come here? Was it just for the test? Miss Sophie said that if he won, she would give him a mercenary qualification, but if he lost, he would leave here. Liu Feng reminded her that she had said that one-on-one combat was forbidden. Sophie agreed, but warned that she would decide everything here. They stood facing each other with the observers gathered around them. Ken was faced with a difficult choice. For the sake of friendship and duty, he should support Liu Feng. But he was also a fan of Miss Sophie, and didn't want to see her lose. Dragon Man advised Ken to follow his heart instead of wavering like a girl. Xiao Jin began to cheer for Miss Sophie, shouting to her that she would win. Ken was surprised to see whom the dragon was supporting. Miss Sophie and Liu Feng prepared for the duel. Miss Sophie grabbed her dagger and rushed to attack the guy. The dagger was already next to Liu Feng, and he stood there unable to move. Ken shouted in horror that it was Miss Sophie's deadly attack, and that Liu Feng should be more careful. Our hero deftly dodged Miss Sophie's dagger and the blow passed him by. The girl thought, how could he have dodged it? She rushed to attack our hero a second time, but Liu Feng dodged her attack again. He was as agile as Quicksilver. Then Sophie decided to use her crowning trick to win. Our hero realized that it was an illusion, and that everything looked like she was suddenly speeding up. Shrouded in a pink aura, Sophie prepared to attack while holding a dagger. She used a special technique to increase her speed. Sophie attacked and jumped up. Liu Feng thought that she was crazy. She's risking everything and he has to stop her. Sophie arched her back with the dagger in her hand and prepared to jump. She jumped up very high and attacked. Liu Feng thrust his sword at her and Sophie stopped in front of him. The girl was very surprised by this turn of events. Liu Feng told her to stop, as this was just a test. There was no point in using techniques that would harm her body. Miss Sophie admitted that she had lost to Liu Feng. Liu Feng might be a mercenary now. Sophie leaned over and quietly asked him if he wanted anything else. They walked into Sophie's office and she said that only the two of them were here. If he had a request, he should tell her. Liu Feng hesitated for a moment. Sophie repeated that he could make any request. This woman was very cruel at the beginning, and now she was seducing Liu Feng. It seemed like she needed something from him. Our hero said that he only needed to qualify as a mercenary. He doesn't care about anything else. Sophie asked, is he not interested in her? Liu Feng told Sophie that he was only interested in the mercenary's qualifications. Sophie said that he had passed the test. Our hero was surprised. What other test are we talking about? Sophie stood up and said that she wanted to invite Liu Feng to join her team. Sophie was one of the heirs of the mercenary guild. Each heir had her own mercenary regiment, and she needed a strong assistant like Liu Feng. Sophie said that Liu Feng's strength was impressive. If he joins, he can forgive anything. There are very few people like Liu Feng. Therefore, he is the first person she invites. If Liu Feng is willing to join, the position of commander is already behind him. Sophie promised to double his salary and pay him a percentage of the missions. Our hero said he wasn't interested. Sophie was surprised. After all, she offered decent terms. Our hero thought he had better things to do than serve her. He has to bring Wei Er back to life. Liu Feng replied that he refused to serve Sophie for personal reasons. Sophie didn't insist and gave him a mercenary badge. She said that even though Liu Feng's level was much higher, she couldn't give him a level 7 badge yet. The guy was very happy and said that level 7 was enough for him. He said goodbye to Sophie, thanked her, and left. Sophie thought she would remember him, and he would join her troop sooner or later. Ken went to his friend's house and knocked on the door. No one answered, and Ken figured they were out drinking without him. He kicked the door open with his foot and saw a horrible sight. Ken Shi and Liu Feng were stunned by what they saw in the room. On the wall, it was written in blood that they would pay for what they had done. At the bottom was Mutu's signature. Liu Feng, Dragon Man, and Ken Shi looked at the chaos in the room. The furniture was broken, and things were scattered everywhere. Liu Feng thought that they had done this for nothing, and clenched his fists. He decided that he had to find Mutu no matter what. Ken told him not to go, because there was an ambush waiting for him. The enemy had taken Beta, but he still couldn't let Liu Feng die. Liu Feng asked if he really wanted to let Beta die. Ken suggested that he just report everything to the police. Liu Feng replied that they did not care, or they would not have let Mutu do such a thing. Ken doubted that they could defeat them on their own turf. Liu Feng agreed to report to the authorities tomorrow. Dragon Man was very surprised. Ken assured our hero that killing was strictly forbidden in Sunset Fortress. Ken thought it was very strange that Liu Feng could be so easily convinced. He suggested that they get something to eat. After such a hard day, everyone was tired and hungry. The Dragon Kid really liked the idea. Ken asked him what he wanted to eat, and he said he wanted meat. Ken promised to buy the Dragon Boy some meat. Night came. Ken slept leaning against the wall. The Dragon Boy also slept next to him. Liu Feng couldn't sleep. He left the room and walked forward. Our hero arrived at the headquarters of Mutu's mercenary regiment. The fighters jumped at him with shouts. Our hero calmly entered the gate and walked through the courtyard. Suddenly the fighters tried to attack him with weapons in their hands. Our hero thought that Ken was right. He was being ambushed. There was no time to hesitate. Liu Feng used his technique. He seemed to be in 10 places at once, striking at his opponents. After a while, it was over, and the opponents were lying on the ground. Liu Feng walked on the ground, but the ground was viscous and sticky. The fat stuck to the soles of his feet. Suddenly, Liu Feng stepped into a magical glowing circle. Then, tongues of flame formed in the place of the circle. They even reached him in the air. Liu Feng jumped over the flames. He thought that there must be a mage hiding here somewhere. He saw the mage standing below. Liu Feng wanted to rush through this place quickly. Liu Feng accidentally dropped the sword from his hands and chopped down the tree the mage was standing under. The sword landed a few inches away from the mage and stuck into the ground. The mage lay there in shock. Liu Feng pulled out the sword, grabbed the hilt, and looked at the mage. Our hero was surprised. Is this really it? Our hero thought that this Mutu didn't care about his people. This was the use of all his power. Liu Feng entered the courtyard of the building. An aura hovered over him. Mutu watched him and realized that the one who had defeated Wu Kai had arrived. Our hero looked around. He could sense Mutu's presence, but he was nowhere to be seen. Liu Feng was walking through the courtyard. Some people were watching him from behind the bushes. He heard a voice saying that he was finished. Liu Feng continued walking and stopped in the middle of the courtyard. He told Mutu to come out. Enough with hiding. Mutu replied to Liu Feng that he was not hiding anywhere. Suddenly, Liu Feng felt his feet being sucked into the swamp. It was the real swamp. He tried to pull one foot out of the swamp. He struggled to climb out of the swamp. Mutu asked, "How dare he come here?" Liu Feng was struggling to climb out of the swamp, and the archers standing on top of him were shooting at him from all sides. As soon as Liu Feng pulled out one leg, the other leg would sink even deeper. This swamp was dragging him down. Liu Feng kept hearing Mutu's voice, but he couldn't find her anywhere. At that time, our hero saw the archers standing around him. He tried to protect himself with his sword. The swamp had already sucked Liu Feng down to his knees. Suddenly, he felt arrows flying at him from all sides. He became furious and began to encourage Mutu. With each passing minute, the swamp sucked him in deeper and deeper. Suddenly, the masked girl threw a rope at Liu Feng. Liu Feng regretfully thought that it wasn't Ken who had come to rescue him. He grabbed the rope with all his might. With the help of the rope, Liu Feng climbed out of the swamp. The swamp wouldn't let him go and turned into a huge black monster. This monster tried to grab Liu Feng and wouldn't let go. While holding onto the rope with one hand, Liu Feng tried to cut the swamp with his other hand. He succeeded and the sword sliced the swamp into pieces. The girl held Liu Feng by the rope, and he fought the swamp, but it recovered very quickly. He was shocked. He had just sliced the swamp into small pieces, and it recovered immediately. The girl used the rope to pull him up the wall. Liu Feng asked Sophie as he looked at the archers lying on the ground, "Is she the one who killed them?" The girl replied that it didn't matter anymore. At that time, the mud from the swamp attacked them. It was a huge mud monster with burning eyes and dozens of arms. Liu Feng sliced the monster into small pieces with his sword so that it wouldn't devour him and Sophie. However, the swamp behind Liu Feng's back reunited to become a huge monster. Liu Feng said that his sword couldn't defeat the swamp. He needs to find its weak spot. We have to find Mutu and destroy him. Sophie replied that Mutu is invincible in the swamp, and you have to destroy the swamp first. Liu Feng didn't understand how to destroy the swamp. Sophie used one of her techniques. Energy balls were scattered toward the swamp. Liu Feng and Sophie stood on the wall. Down below, explosions rang out one after another. Sophie and Liu Feng watched the huge explosions in the swamp. Liu Feng said that it was powerful, but he couldn't understand what it was. Sophie replied that it was a small gift she had prepared for Mutu. Sophie told Mutu not to dare to show himself to them, or he would turn into an ice statue. The explosions that shook the swamp turned the water to ice. In one place, the ice cracked and a hand appeared. The swamp was frozen, and Mutu came out of the swamp. The swamp was still frozen. The ice monster grabbed Liu Feng and Sophie. Mutu came out of the swamp. Mutu asked the girl, "Who is she?" Sophie replied that it didn't matter. Besides, she wasn't his opponent. At that moment, Liu Feng jumped down from the wall and directly attacked Mutu. Mutu asked the girl if she thought she could scare him with a normal freeze. At that moment, Liu Feng attacked Mutu with his sword. When our hero touched Mutu with his sword, Mutu knelt down and begged for mercy. He said he would tell everything. Liu Feng said he didn't believe him. Mutu smiled and told the man that he had made a mistake and that Liu Feng should forgive him. Mutu offered Liu Feng money and girls. Our hero demanded that Mutu let Beta go. Mutu said he would let him go, but he forgot something very precious. He grabbed what looked like a laser cannon from behind his back and said that it wasn't that easy. Liu Feng and Sophie were shocked by the weapon Mutu pulled out. Liu Feng immediately moved behind Mutu's back. He drew his sword again. Mutu could not understand how did Liu Feng end up there. Liu Feng plunged his sword into Mutu's back up to the hilt. He stood there with the sword in his hands, and in front of him, Mutu was lying in the middle of the frozen swamp with a wound on his back. Looking at Liu Feng's actions, Sophie said that this was a good move. Liu Feng still didn't recognize Sophie in the mask, So he asked who she was. Sophie jumped down from the wall and told Liu Feng not to be nervous. She took the mask off her face, and Liu Feng saw that it was Sophie. She had come in time. Otherwise, Liu Feng would be in trouble. Sophie rushed over to Liu Feng and said that she had saved him. How would he thank her? He couldn't understand how Sophie was here and why she was helping him. Sophie replied that she helped him because she likes him. She needs a commander who will not die for nothing. Liu Feng replied that he had not promised to join her regiment. Sophie suggested that he make a deal with her. Sophie slipped in a bill for the help. It was payment for the medicine, payment for the special spell, and payment for her appearance. The total was a tidy sum. Our hero was shocked. How can you charge for appearances? Sophie replied that she was a level 7 mercenary, the president of the Sunset Fortress Mercenary Guild. The fee for her services is very high. Sophie handed Liu Feng the check and said that all the payment details are here. Liu Feng replied that he didn't have that much money. Sophie suggested that he work for her to pay off his debts and become the commander of her regiment. Liu Feng replied that he would find a way to pay off the debt, but he would not join the regiment. Sophie told Liu Feng that his friends had been hypnotized by Mutu. They remembered nothing and could be taken away. Sophie put the cost of sending the friends to Liu Feng's account. Our hero thanked Sophie and said that she was a very kind woman. He hadn't expected her to be like that. Sophie asked him how he imagined her to be. Liu Feng was very embarrassed and didn't know how to tell her. Sophie guessed it herself and said that many people perceive her that way. If our hero wants to be a part of the mercenary world, he must be prepared to be slandered. Sophie is already used to it. Liu Feng said that in his homeland, they say that if you dig a hole for someone else, you'll fall into it yourself. Sophie liked the saying very much and repeated it. She thanked Liu Feng and said that no one had ever understood her so well before. Liu Feng was very pleased. Sophie also withdrew another 1,000 pieces of gold from his account. Our hero was very happy. Sophie replied that he could say another saying, but it wouldn't cut his check. This amused them both, and they laughed heartily. Liu Feng and Sophie shook hands and got to know each other once again without any officiousness. Now they had become true friends. Beta and the other 2 mercenaries in Ken's group lay down and fell into a hypnotic sleep. Ken asked Liu Feng if he was from the Rhapsody Mercenary Regiment. Liu Feng denied everything and said that Sophie brought them here this morning. In any case, these people are under hypnosis and need to be woken up somehow. Ken said that if they were put to sleep by a spell, they should find a magician to break it. He left to find a mage, while Liu Feng and the Dragonkin stayed behind to guard their comrades' sleep. Mutu told Liu Feng that he didn't have enough martial arts experience. He needed to get better. Our hero didn't know where to find an opponent to fight. He decided to try the mirror double tactic. The mirror double was an exact copy of Liu Feng. The 2 Liu Fengs faced each other and one of them ordered to attack. The doppelganger had 30% of his strength, but had the advantage of being completely obedient. Our hero began to practice various techniques on him. However, Liu Feng could only support the doppelganger for 3 minutes. Therefore, it was best to use him in a critical situation during the battle. At that time, Ken returned and told Liu Feng that they were in trouble. Tonight, a regiment of Rhapsodian mercenaries had entered the city. Ken's jaw dropped when he saw 2 identical Liu Fengs. Thinking that he was still asleep, he began to rub his eyes furiously. Ken was sure that he was still asleep, but Liu Feng came over and asked him what was wrong. Ken said that the Rhapsody Mercenary Regiment had entered the building tonight. Suddenly someone's footsteps were heard and Ken asked, "Who is it?" It was a man in a gray hooded cloak with some kind of mark on his back. His face couldn't be seen, but a voice could be heard saying that he knew what Liu Feng had done. The voice ordered him to follow it. Liu Feng was at a loss. He was confused by this man who was hiding his face under a hood. Ken asked the stranger who he was and why he was looking for Liu Feng. The stranger showed his face. It was a young man who said that if Ken didn't want the Fire Mercenary Regiment to be expelled from the fortress, he shouldn't interfere. Ken recognized this man and was terrified. Liu Feng put his hand on Ken's shoulder and told him not to worry, that he would talk to the stranger. Ken quietly whispered to Liu Feng that he was afraid it would affect their team. Our hero replied that even if the stranger wanted to make trouble for him, he would leave. Liu Feng told Ken to wait for him. He would be back soon. The dragon cub begged Liu Feng to hurry back because he promised to take it to the market. Liu Feng petted the dragon cub and said that he would definitely come back. Ken told our hero to be careful. They walked across the green field, the man walking ahead of Liu Feng, who could barely keep up. The stranger stopped and said that Liu Feng would go on alone. The man didn't understand why he was going there. The stranger took off his hood, revealing his face completely. It was the captain of the Sunset Fortress law enforcement team named Ao He. Surprised, Liu Feng asked, "What did the law enforcement captain want from him?" Ao He replied that he just wanted to be friends with him. Our hero didn't believe Captain Ao He. Maybe he needs to collect some data. Liu Feng told the captain right to his face that he didn't think the man just wanted to be friends with him. The captain replied that Liu Feng had found out about him. Ao He menacingly asked Liu Feng what he was doing in the Rhapsody Mercenary Regiment. Liu Feng pretended not to understand and asked what the captain was talking about. The captain replied that a group of mercenaries disappeared last night and their leader, Mutu, was found dead. Liu Feng is the main suspect. Our hero asked, "What evidence do you have to accuse him?" The captain said he couldn't find any evidence. Everything was done too qualitatively. He grabbed the hilt of his sword. Ow! He pointed his sword at Liu Feng and said that he didn't need any proof. He is sure that our hero did it. Liu Feng replied that this was unfair to say the least. Liu Feng asked Captain Ao He, "What level is he at? Is he at the 9th level?" The captain confirmed his level and asked Liu Feng, "Is he really afraid?" Liu Feng replied that if he could defeat a level 9 captain, he would be able to avenge someone. The captain replied that he didn't know who Liu Feng wanted to avenge and wanted to start quickly. Liu Feng said that he was ready to fight, and the captain could attack. Ao He rushed to attack Liu Feng and used a wind dash. Our hero skillfully dodged the blow. Then he swung his huge sword himself. Captain Ao. He didn't expect such an attack from Liu Feng. He swung his sword so hard that it left a sword mark in the air. Our hero blocked the captain's attack with his sword. The dragon sword that Liu Feng was wielding now had tremendous power. He had to hold the handle with both hands. The captain didn't expect Liu Feng to withstand his attack. He was surprised that our hero was still on his feet. Ow. He praised Liu Feng, but said that Liu Feng's strength had not been fully revealed. The captain said that the power Liu Feng uses has no spirit or magic. Ow. He was surprised to see Liu Feng disappear while dodging his attack. He admitted that he was now interested in Liu Feng. However, Captain Ao He continued to attack and attempted a surprise attack. Once again, Liu Feng skillfully dodged the captain's attack. Captain Ao He's sword drew a trajectory, leaving a trail of fire. Our hero had no choice but to dodge the attack once again. Liu Feng had to preserve his remaining internal power. It was the only trick he could use to block the captain. To block another attack, the guy put his sword in front of him. The captain stopped, stuck the sword into the ground, and said that he understood. He believed that Liu Feng's strength was speed, and he was waiting for the right moment to counterattack. Liu Feng thought that the captain had guessed his tactics. The captain said that Liu Feng used his speed to create a clone. That was how he defeated the weaker ones. However, he couldn't be defeated that way. He said that he would now show Liu Feng the difference in their strength. Suddenly, Captain Ao He was covered in a golden armor that glowed like fire. He said that Liu Feng was finished. The guy was very surprised by the captain's transformation and asked what it was. The captain replied that it was a skill of a 9th level martial artist. Ao He told Liu Feng to manifest with all his might or else he would really die. Our hero rushed to attack the captain. At that time, the Dragon Man finished the last chicken leg. The hypnotized mercenaries were still sleeping. The Dragon Man was crying because he had eaten all the chicken legs and Liu Feng hadn't returned yet. That was when Wu Kai came to his senses and found out that Mu Tu had died. If he hadn't gone into hiding at that time, he would have died as well. Wu Kai decided to take revenge on Liu Feng. While Ken and Liu Feng were away, he decided to kill the little dragon and Beta. This would be revenge for Mu Tu's murder. Wu Kai approached the Dragonkin from behind, but the Dragonkin decided to protect the last chicken leg at all costs. A moment later, Wu Kai lay on the ground, his head crushed and bleeding. The Dragonkin was sobbing, not knowing where Liu Feng had gone. Hearing the crying and screaming of the Dragon Child, Sophie came in. The Dragon Child said that he was sitting quietly eating meat, and then that man came and stabbed him with a knife. Dragon Man pointed to Wu Kai, who was lying unconscious. Sophie asked Dragon Man, "Who knocked him out? Was it Liu Feng?" Dragon Man replied that Liu Feng was taken away by some guy, and Wu Kai just fainted when the Dragonborn raised his hand to block him. Sophie couldn't understand how a kid could defeat Wu Kai. This little boy seemed to be incredibly strong. Sophie saw the empty bottle and thought that Wu Kai had tripped over it and hit his head, and the kid just thought he had knocked him out. Sophie asked who called Liu Feng and where to. The Dragonkin replied that the person who summoned Liu Feng wore a black cloak, and on his back was an image of scales against the sun. Sophie's mouth dropped open in surprise. She immediately realized who the Dragon Child was talking about. At that moment, Liu Feng was fighting with Captain Ao He. The captain was wearing armor, and Liu Feng was fighting with his bare hands. Neither of them could defeat the other. Liu Feng thought that the captain was incredibly strong, and it was still too early for him to fight against such power. He had a bleeding wound on his cheek, but he decided that he wouldn't give up so easily. The guy used the double mirror skill. In front of Captain Ao He, there were two completely identical Liu Feng. The captain immediately realized that Liu Feng had created an illusory clone. He praised Liu Feng that he had many techniques. He could even create clones. The captain thought that they wouldn't be able to attack together. The clone was only created to distract the enemy's attention. Their swords crossed. The captain said that this was the first time he had seen the wielder attack head-on, leaving the clone behind. Oh, he laughed. Why would Liu Feng do that? Did he have any energy left? It was the clone that the captain started to fight. The real Liu Feng stood behind him, laughing that the captain believed and mistook the clone for him. At that time, the real Liu Feng quickly approached the captain. He delivered a staggering blow to his opponent, attacking him from behind. Ah! He grimaced in pain after receiving a sword strike from the real Liu Feng. Captain Ao He's armor began to crack. Liu Feng landed another blow on the captain. At this time, the clone drew the enemy's attention to himself. Captain Ao. He had never heard of a technique that created an actual clone. Therefore, it was difficult for him to fight Liu Feng. At this time, Sophie jumped onto the roof and looked at the direction Liu Feng had gone. Sophie rushed across the rooftops and thought that if someone took Liu Feng away, it would most likely be Captain Ao He. He is ruthless, and he most likely came from behind the Rhapsody Mercenary Regiment. Sophie decided to find out for herself. Running over one of the rooftops, Sophie spotted a law enforcement team outside Liu Feng's house. She thought it unlikely that they would dare touch the dragon. Sophie ran across the rooftops with great speed. She realized that Liu Feng was finally stronger, and she couldn't lose him. She had to stop Ao He as soon as possible. Sophie ran towards Liu Feng as long as he waits for her. Meanwhile, the duel between Liu Feng and Ao He continued. Liu Feng felt that his inner strength was dwindling and he couldn't use it anymore. Captain Ao. He recognized Liu Feng's strength. He said that if it weren't for his armor, he might have lost. Captain Ao? He shouted that it was not him who would lose the battle, but Liu Feng. Our hero thought that this was his last chance to win. He rushed to attack Captain Ao He again. He jumped so high and dodged so skillfully that the captain had no chance to catch him. So the captain suggested to him not to dodge, but to fight. Ow! His sword moved at such a speed that its path couldn't be seen. Only the light left behind by the sword indicated its trajectory. His sword had a very long range, and Huaxia's technique could only increase its speed. Liu Feng realized that he couldn't dodge with such a large sword radius. It looked like he had no chance to defeat Captain Ao He. The guy gathered all his strength and swung his sword at the captain. The dragon sword shattered the captain's armor and he was injured. Blood poured out of Captain Ao He's mouth. Suddenly, his armor disappeared and he was left in his normal clothes. He was on one knee, his sword stuck in the ground. Ao He was defeated and blood poured out of his mouth. Liu Feng couldn't believe that he was victorious. Captain Ao. He asked Liu Feng how he managed to pierce his solid armor. Liu Feng replied that the best defense is an offense. The captain did not immediately understand the meaning of these words. He laughed and admitted that since he upgraded to level 9, he had developed a strong armor. He had stopped feeling blows and had never practiced since then. Captain Ao He thanked Liu Feng for the fight. Liu Feng thought that the captain didn't care that he almost died. The captain told Liu Feng to hurry up and join his friends. Our hero raised his sword and asked, "What's wrong with them?" Captain Ao. He said that Liu Feng was really stupid. If he hadn't saved Liu Feng's friends, they would have been killed a long time ago. Our hero couldn't believe that someone like Captain Ao He would save someone. The captain replied that Liu Feng had let down his guard and left his friends behind. Liu Feng finally realized that the captain was talking about Wu Kai. Captain Ao. He said that he had left his defenses behind. Liu Feng replied that not only Wu Kai, but even the captain himself didn't have the power to defeat Kun Shi's teacher. Our hero said that he left the Dragon Boy with Ken Shi in the hope that he would protect Xiao Xin. If anyone finds out that Xiao Xin is a dragon, there will be trouble. Captain Ao He realized everything and admitted that he was wrong when he said that Liu Feng killed Mutu. But the guy said that he killed Mutu because he kidnapped his friends. The captain wondered, why did it take so long to fight when you could have just explained yourself? Liu Feng replied that he was just bored. Captain Ao, he suggested that our hero fight again later. Our hero was very surprised that someone like the captain was interested in him. Liu Feng was not pleased that the captain was interested in him. Captain Ao. He had deliberately provoked Liu Feng at the beginning to show his true strength. But he never expected our hero to be so strong. Liu Feng replied that he couldn't beat the captain in defense or strength, only in speed. He wasn't strong enough yet. He needed to practice. He had to become stronger in order to kill Lord Lei Ting. Liu Feng asked the captain what he needed when he specifically tested him. The captain said that Liu Feng needed to know about the main enemies of the humans, the orcs. Soon, the hour would come when all of humanity would join the battle against the orcs. Liu Feng was excited to hear this information. The captain said that they had noticed that the orcs were getting closer and closer, which meant that they were running out of game. They have always coveted the fertile lands of the humans. This means that every 3 years, humans and orcs will fight. If the orcs win, they will take over the land and wipe out the human population. Liu Feng asked, what if the humans win? The captain replied that the orcs would retreat for another 3 years and wait for the next war. It turned out that the orcs were testing the humans' strength in battles. Liu Feng asked, why not destroy the orcs in a single attack after victory? The captain replied that in the northern grasslands where the orcs lived, it was difficult not only to destroy them, but also to track them down. Liu Feng thought that if they lost, their land would be ruined, but if they won, they would only be safe for 3 years. The captain said that the last time they lost, the orcs invaded their land, so they can't let them win this time. Last time the captain sent the best warriors, but they still lost. This time the orcs were even stronger. He asked Liu Feng to help them. After all, only Liu Feng and the captain were at level 9. Liu Feng didn't even know what to say. However, after thinking for a while, he said that as a human, he would fight for the humans. The captain hugged Liu Feng tightly and thanked him. At that time, Sophie ran across the field. She hadn't seen Liu Feng and Ao He yet, but the orcs' territory was further away. The girl saw our hero walking calmly across the field. Sophie ran over to Liu Feng and asked him if he was okay. Liu Feng was very surprised to see the girl here. Sophie asked what's wrong with Captain Ao He. Did Liu Feng kill him too? She said that Liu Feng would be hunted down if he killed Captain Ao He. Captain Ao He was fine, so he went to the orc territory to investigate the situation. The captain saw that there was obviously something going on and decided to check it out, and Liu Feng offered to find his way home by himself. Sophie was very surprised to learn that Ao He not only didn't kill Liu Feng, but also befriended him. Liu Feng told the girl that he needed to rest, and if she invited him to dinner, he would tell her everything. Sophie lived in a beautiful house. It was a huge mansion. The boy said that he was very hungry because fighting took a lot of energy. He was served some fried chicken. Liu Feng ate the chicken leg with gusto, and Sophie was surprised that he was able to resist Ao He. Our hero said that he used a little trick. If you only rely on strength and skill, you won't be able to beat the captain. Sophie said that if Liu Feng wins, it means he is stronger than the captain, but it was for nothing that he agreed to fight the orcs. Liu Feng asked Sophie what she was talking about. The girl replied that Ao He had hidden many things from him. Our hero was very surprised. What could Captain Ao He have hidden from him? Sophie asked if he had talked about the madness of the orcs. Liu Feng replied that he hadn't. Madness was a skill that all orcs possessed. It increased attack by 50% and gave the Orc Empire incredible striking power, but it also had a side effect. When using madness, orcs go on a rampage, killing everyone they see. In past battles, the orcs used madness to win. Even if the humans won, it cost the orcs nothing to go mad. Then they would tear everyone apart indiscriminately. Liu Feng said that these orcs were very dangerous. Sophie said that of all the level 9 masters in recent years, only Ao He had fought orcs. Sophie advised Liu Feng to talk to Ao He tomorrow and refuse the offer. Our hero replied that he would not break his promise. Besides, he believes he can win. Sophie smiled and said that Liu Feng was very brave. She suggested that they celebrate their achievements first. They raised their glasses and drank a toast. An hour later, Sophie said that if she had someone as strong as Liu Feng, the Mercenary Guild headquarters would quickly fall behind her. Then Sophie would not be in this situation. Liu Feng asked what had happened to the woman. Sophie clarified which one, since there are many houses here that keep sisters and princesses. Sophie said that they are the descendants of the mercenary King Su Han, who believes that women are not worthy to be heirs. Sophie herself grew up with a sword in her hand and a fighting spirit in her heart. Her father had hoped that she would succeed him as head of the Mercenary Guild, but there were other contenders. The girl said that her 2 cousins had more support than she did. The elders sent her to the border. She no longer wanted to be the heir. Sophie said that she offered Liu Feng the post of commander to get close to him. The girl didn't think he would refuse such a generous offer. Liu Feng replied that he didn't know anything about it, so he refused. Our hero really wanted to help Sophie. He was willing to help her without even joining her team. Sophie looked at him hopefully. Would he really help her? Liu Feng replied that Sophie was his friend, so he would do his best. Sophie was very happy because with Liu Feng's help, she could take the chairman's seat. Sophie's mouth was bleeding and she leaned on Liu Feng. He was very scared. Was she really so happy that she vomited blood? Sophie said that it was the effect of using disintegration and drinking a lot of alcohol. They could easily cause internal damage. The girl told Liu Feng not to worry. She would get better soon. Liu Feng thought it was unlikely that he would be able to alleviate Sophie's suffering, but he decided to try anyway. Our hero took Sophie's hands and tried to inject his inner strength into her body. Sophie didn't realize what he had done, but the pain inside her diminished. Our hero was very happy to see Sophie feeling better. Sophie remembered that the elder had said that there was a way to treat pathological internal injuries. The elder had said how to heal, but no one had been able to do it. Perhaps he was referring to this power? It turned out that the elder's words were true. Liu Feng continued to hold Sophie's hands, infusing her with his power. Eventually, Sophie said that she was fine and felt good. She went to the fireplace and told Liu Feng that she had something to tell him. Sophie handed him an envelope with a red mark on it. Liu Feng didn't know what kind of envelope she was giving him. Sophie asked him if the mark was familiar to him. Liu Feng remembered that he had seen such an envelope with a red mark before. When they were walking with Ken, a mysterious man offered them a large sum of money and showed them the exact same envelope. Sophie said it was the mark of the Huazin Chamber of Commerce. This power of attorney was privately issued to the Mercenary Guild. Liu Feng couldn't understand what kind of Chamber of Commerce. Then Sophie told the guy to sit down and started a detailed story. The Huazin Chamber of Commerce is one of the 3 largest chambers on the continent. They have their own transportation company. This time it's just an escort mission, but they're offering such a big reward. Liu Feng guessed that they just have no place to put the money. Sophie said it wasn't that simple. They didn't invite the Mercenary Guild this time. Liu Feng thought that after Sophie's story it seemed strange. Sophie said that she had personally interrogated the 3 mercenary regiments, and they knew a little about the order. This time, there was clearly something wrong with the order. Sophie asked our hero not to accept the mission for his own safety. Liu Feng objected that they should take the job. Sophie asked why, and our hero replied that he owed the tavern a lot of money and he also owed Sophie money. Liu Feng looked at the order and said that Sophie's words made sense. One should either be sure or not participate at all. Sophie said that if Liu Feng wants to take the mission, she has a suggestion. We see a huge palace with towers. Outside the palace, there was a horse-drawn carriage and a cart loaded with luggage. A boy and a girl were watching. Liu Feng pushed the people out of the way and walked forward, apologizing. Our hero handed the envelope to the man in the cloak and said that he was Liu Feng of the Fire Mercenary Regiment, who had come to deliver this envelope. The man wondered, "Isn't Ken Shi the head of the Fire Mercenary Regiment? He bought weapons from him last time, so why didn't he come himself?" Sophie stood next to Liu Feng. The man said that Ken Shi had some business to attend to, so he sent her in his place. The cloaked man asked if anyone else from the fire regiment was coming. Liu Feng replied not to worry, the two of them were enough. The man agreed, but said that he wanted to warn them about something. He said that there were only two of them, and they should be careful of the others, so there was no need to provoke them. Liu Feng replied that they would be extremely careful and thanked him for the warning. The man left, leaving Liu Feng and Sophie standing by the cart. Sophie asked, "What are we going to do with her? After all, she was also assigned to represent the fire regiment. They should go around the other regiment so as not to make any noise." Liu Feng agreed with Sophie and asked her why she was going with him. Sophie replied that it was his first mission, and she had to train him. Liu Feng thanked the girl, but she said he still owed her. The wagons loaded with bales left. Sophie and Liu Feng rode in one of the wagons. Liu Feng sat on the floor of the cart and meditated. Liu Feng pumped all his inner gates, but he still couldn't open the other gates. Sophie asked, what was this technique he was trying so hard to learn? Our hero replied that this technique was called Hua Xia Ne Gong. He had studied it all the time before coming to this world. The carriages passed small mountains and forests. Sophie didn't really understand what Liu Feng was talking about, but she only realized that this technique was very difficult to master. He wanted to activate the full power of this technique in front of the orcs. Liu Feng replied that it wasn't that easy. Every time he activated this power, it would be harder for him to activate it the next time. Sophie advised him not to activate it for nothing, but to save his strength for the battle with the orcs. Our hero remembered Wei Er and her grandfather. He said that he needed to become stronger, so he should improve this technique. Liu Feng had such a face that Sophie was startled and asked what was wrong with him. He quickly pulled himself together and replied that he was thinking about how to defeat the orcs. Liu Feng looked out of the coach window. They had almost reached the orcs' border. Their caravan consisted of many wagons carrying people and goods, as well as guards riding bulls and horses. Liu Feng looked at the guards through the window and said that he thought they were level 7. Sophie confirmed that they were only doing high-level tasks. Liu Feng wondered why this job was considered a high-level job. He said that Sophie hadn't told him that such missions existed. Liu Feng hesitated for a moment. He and Sophie were more like honored guests, since they were accompanied by such mercenaries. Either the mercenaries are making